Now, staying on that news, Songezo Zibi is the leader of Rise Mzansi, and he joins us now for more reactions. Mr. Zibi, thank you so much for joining us this evening on News at Prime. Now, your party has expressed through a statement that it has acknowledged the announcement of a government of national unity, but the Rise Mzansi National Leadership Collective also met up today. What were those discussions like?
Thanks, Masa. I think the ANC has, our understanding is that the ANC is suggesting the formation of a government of national unity. Political parties do not have to agree to be part of that process. The effort may well fail because it's a political effort, and we may end up with a coalition of one or other kind. And I think we need to let the process unfold. What we have decided to do as the National Leadership Collective is to engage in discussions with all political parties, including the ANC. And we have actually been in such discussions with other political parties. We have not met the ANC yet, but that could happen in due course.
And who are the other political parties that you've been having talks with?
No, I mean, it's not talks in the manner that people would imagine, because once the ANC made its proposal, and also since the election outcome was announced last weekend, you reach out to other political parties to understand their interpretation of this situation, because it is the first time since 1948 that an election has not produced a winner. It's an unprecedented situation. Our constitution allows for 14 days from the date of the announcement of the certification of the results to form a government, to elect a speaker, to elect a deputy speaker, and to elect a president. Such has never happened before. So we have been sense checking with other political parties to find out what they think, how they think we should move forward, to inform our discussion that we had today.
So it's those kinds of talks more to get clarity about what a government of national unity entails and their understanding of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look, I mean, the government of national unity is not complicated, Masa, and we need not complicate it. The idea, as I understand it from the ANC, is that they want all political parties to participate in the formation of a government. It's really that simple. In the event that there are political parties who do not want to be part of such an arrangement, then you no longer have a government of national unity. You've got a coalition of one or other kind. It's not complicated. I think what really matters is for all parties to engage with the process in good faith, even in a case where political parties do not wish to talk to the ANC. That's also fine, really. Nothing here is compulsory as far as we are concerned.
It's a bit of a different stance when it comes to the other smaller parties like UDM, BOSA, PAC, and others who have written to the Chief Justice, as you heard in the story before this interview as well, that the Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, has received that letter. And what they're basically saying is that they would like clarity because they don't see how this government of national unity is going to work. Some of the questions that they would ask is, what is then the ANC's position in this partnership of a government of national unity? Do they then call the shots? Whose manifesto guides this GNU? Who are they going to make sure that they listen to, whether it's the ANC or the DA or any other party that agrees to this government of national unity? You don't need that clarity?
The ANC has no authority to instruct anyone to be part of a government of national unity. So again, there is no dispute here. We need to keep the judiciary and the Chief Justice outside of political conversations between political actors in the country. The role of the Chief Justice is set out in our Constitution. It is very specifically defined. The list of candidates is handed to the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice officiates over the swearing in, the election of a speaker and a deputy speaker in the National Assembly. And then from then on, the speaker takes over, the Chief Justice is out of it. We must not have a situation where the Chief Justice is engaging in political discussions with political parties. Political parties must make a decision on whether they want a government of national unity or not. It's the same decision we are going to make as well when we meet with the ANC to decide whether we want to be part of it or not. They can't force anyone, Masa. There is no crisis here as far as that is concerned.
And just to also clarify as well, you know, we did have, as I mentioned earlier, the UDM leader Bantu Holomisa in studio, and he did clarify to say the reason they wrote to the Chief Justice is in his capacity as the de facto speaker, and they're not married to the idea that it has to be the Chief Justice himself, but purely because he is the speaker right now, and the clock is ticking, we have a deadline. So this clarity needs to be sought out before the 7th administration starts?
We take a different view, and I have been in discussions with General Olomisa as well. The Chief Justice is not the Speaker. The Chief Justice remains the Chief Justice and officiates over the election of a Speaker. He's not a Speaker who's officiating over the election of a Speaker. We really must not involve the judiciary in politics. It's really important that we do not do that. The Chief Justice must stay out of negotiations between political parties. The Constitution does not allow him or her to do so, and we must not venture into that area. If political parties are not able to reach an agreement, it's not for the Chief Justice to rule on what the political settlement needs to be. It's not in the Constitution.
Mr. Zibi, what do you think your contribution will be as Rise Mzansi, considering the performance that you had at the polls as well? You've got two members of parliament who are going to parliament, yourself and Mr. Ghana as well. What kind of contribution do you think you'll be able to make as a two-man party there?
Well, there are two phases to this, Masa. The first one is before the formation of parliament, and that there are discussions with other political parties. You don't always make a difference in parliament as yourself. There is an opportunity for caucusing together, for tackling issues together and collaborating in many different ways. And so the fact that a party may have 2 or 5 or 7 seats is not itself an impediment if it is possible to work with other political parties. I think what is important for all South Africans to understand is that the next week is the most crucial in the last 30 years of South Africa's democracy. It's an unprecedented situation. It is really important that all political actors act with maturity, with due consideration for the Constitution, and place the interests of the South African people above all else. And that's certainly what Rise Mzansi is intending to do as we discuss these matters with other political parties as we have been.
I'm still going to try and get 1 or 2 of those names of those political parties that you have been engaging, if you don't mind just sharing that with us.
I've spoken to the UDM to sense check. We've spoken to Action SA to sense check with you to have a conversation with Good. And I've had a conversation with Bossa. So it is not a mystery. Like I said earlier on, Masa, we just sense checking. What are you making of this situation? How do you think the country should proceed? What role do you think we can play as opposition political parties to make sure that the 14 days set out in the Constitution is met by all political actors in such a way we are able to have a government after the deadline has expired and we've got the session in Parliament? It's not complicated. I think it's a normal conversations political actors should have.
And from that sense check as well, what sense are you getting? Should we be anxious as the public that political leaders are not going to be able to get their act together and not be at loggerheads? Because we've seen with other political parties right now who are in the fore, not necessarily Rise Mzansi, who have objections, who have concerns, who have no-goes as to who they will work with or not. Should we, as South Africans, be concerned that there won't be that political maturity that you're referring to when you think about that sense check that you've been doing as well?
Masa, my honest view is that there is a possibility that we will not be able to meet the 14-day deadline that is set out in the Constitution. Because it is not just differences with the ANC, there are differences between other political parties amongst themselves. So it appears that there is an issue between the ANC and MK, an issue between the DA and the EFF, and so on, right? And all of these matters need to be resolved within the allocated time. And as far as I understand, I think we've got 7 days now to get there. And we are still nowhere. So the public must understand that there is a possibility that when we hold that session in Parliament, there may yet be no consensus on who the presidential candidate is going to be, who the speaker is going to be. And there may be several rounds of voting in the National Assembly as set out in the Constitution to arrive at at an eventual president. And it really may be anybody at that time.
Any bets, any chances of you throwing your name in the hat, even though you only have a small number of seats there?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we understand that. Look, the reality is we have to respect South African voters. South African voters have chosen, let's say, top 3, 4 political parties. And I think the rational position to take for anybody who puts the interests of the country first is to say the most senior roles in a government and so on would likely accrue to those political parties, whichever one they may be. Our role is to keep an open mind, to talk to all of them, place our issues on the table, and see what the outcome of those discussions is in order to inform decisions we take in Parliament as to which speaker to vote for and which president to vote for.
And I know I am pushing it here, but what are the chances that you will let us know who Rise Mzansi would be willing to nominate as a presidential candidate? Who would you be willing to stand behind and say, well, that's the person?
Well, there is no candidate from any political party except, I think, the current president. There's Julius Malema from the EFF. None of them have asked us to vote for their candidate. So, no, sorry, I don't have an opinion at this point.
No, that's fine. And anyway, are you anyway surprised at the election results, considering how much campaigning Rise Mzansi did do? I mean, you were everywhere.
No, I mean, surprised maybe not, but disappointed, yes. And the reality is that, you know, a lot of political parties got a big surprise. It's not just the ANC. Action SA declined, the EFF declined, the DA declined in real terms in this election, and so on. And there was an outsized influence by Umkhonto weSizwe party, which had not been there when all of the political parties, including ourselves, conceived their campaigns. And that is what we have to reckon with. The second thing that we have to reckon with is the fact that more and more South Africans are choosing not to vote, and that is having an impact on the outcome of the election.
And just before I let you go, Mr. Zibi, just in terms of moving forward and your party as well, would you then be willing to be a part of this government of national unity, just to get clarity on that? Is Rise Mzansi saying we are available and ready to be a part of the national government of unity, just as the DA has indicated and the IFP? Or are you saying you would rather perhaps maybe look at it from the opposition benches, which is the position that Action SA has taken? Did you come to any of these outcomes from your meeting today?
No, we have not met with the ANC. So, you know, the media announcement they made is insufficient, is an insufficient basis upon which to make a decision. There will be a meeting with the African National Congress in the next 24 to 48 hours. And when they tell us what this idea is, what its modalities are, how would the parliament work with the executive and so on, then you can consider it and make a decision about whether to support it or not. It is not a good idea to make decisions without sufficient information, certainly from Rise Mzansi's perspective. The media announcement by the ANC is not on its own enough to go on.
Well, good luck to you and Rise Mzansi, because it is crunch time with those talks. Thank you so much for joining us on Newzroom Afrika this evening.